Okay, knock knock, who's there? Well, today we're going to look at the subject of what is a key, a small three-letter word that actually involves quite a bit of information. And over the next few weeks, we're going to be discussing what it actually means to be, for example, in the key of G or C or A. Musicians often use the word key to say that, well, a song is in a particular key. Now, to understand what a key is, we're going to be understanding the chords in a key. We're going to be understanding the scales that are represented in that key. And we're going to be looking at ways of improvising within that key. So today I thought we'd touch on the basics of what a key is and have a look at the actual chords, or what we call scale chords, or even scale tone chords in a key. Now, musicians say that we're playing three chords, and rightly so, in a blues key we have like what we call, loosely speaking, the 1, 4, 5 chords, meaning that there are three chords in a basic 12-bar blues progression. But actually, in a normal major or minor key, if we're writing a song in a major or minor key, we need to understand that there are actually 7 scale chords in that key. They may or may not all be there in the song. However, over the years, as I've been learning to become a musician, I've found music and whether it's been sheet music or tab or downloaded music, and the chords have either been wrong or inadequate, meaning that then I'm not playing the right chords. So it's very important to understand what the right chords are in a key. You may be writing a song and be looking for a chord to fit into your song, your progression. So let's have a look then today at the key of G, and we'll be looking at some music, some songs in that key of G. G, of course, is one of the most common keys that we play in. So the first chord in the key of a G, of course, would basically be a simple G major chord, which will turn into a major 7 in a little while. The second chord in that key is an A minor chord. The third chord in the key of G is a B minor chord. The fourth chord in the key of G is a C major chord. The fifth chord, or the 5 chord, is a D7 chord. The sixth chord in the key of G is an E minor chord. And then the seventh chord in the key of G is an F sharp minor 7 flat 5, sometimes called the half diminished chord, which would take me back to the 1 chord, the G major chord. So let's just recap on what I just did. We had 7 different chords in the key of G. What were they? G major, A minor, B minor, C, D7, E minor, F sharp half diminished, back to G. You take a very simple song like Knocking on Heaven's Door. Basically, Bob's just playing those 4 chords over and over throughout the verses and the chorus in that very simple song, Knocking on Heaven's Door. And what did we just use? We used G, A minor 7, D, and C. So what we had there was what I just explained before was the 1 chord, we had the 2 chord, we had the 4 and the 5 chord. Now we can use this system in any of the 12 keys. Yes, folks, there are 12 keys. Knock, knock, who's there? We've got 12 doors to open there in terms of our Western white man music system. There are 12 notes. You can see that I've got 12 frets on my guitar to the octave. So basically, that is the first part of understanding what a key is, knowing the correct chords that are in a key, because the chords are like what we call the harmonic background. It's like the street. I mean, everyone drives on that street. But your melody and your lyrics are like, well, that's your own personal stuff. That's what when you publish a song, you copyright the words and you copyright the melody. So that's like we can all drive on Swanson Street, but you can't drive. I can't drive your car because that's your car, and the melody and the lyrics are like your car. So what I want to do today is just introduce another song in the key of G that I'm actually going to extend those chords. What we just looked at were just basic major and minor chords. and what we call a half diminished chord and a dominant seventh chord. Isn't it interesting to note that there are actually 4 minor chords, 2 major chords, and what we call a dominant seventh chord. And later on in the course, we may sort of look at the structure of those chords a little bit more. But let's have a look at those chords, extend those basic chords to all to seventh chords. And what we end up with is a G major 7, an A minor 7, a B minor 7, a C major 7. We still retain the D dominant 7th, the D7, to E minor 7, to F sharp minor 7, flat 5, up to an octave on the G major 7. Isn't that exciting? So one of the songs that we're going to be studying and learning to improvise over is a song called Autumn Leaves, which is actually in the relative minor key of G major, which we will discuss, which is E minor, but we use basically the same scale chords in the relative minor key. And in the song Autumn Leaves, I've got an A minor 7, I've got a D7, I've got a G major 7, I've got a C major 7, and I've got an F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Isn't that exciting? They've also got an E minor in there, and they've also got a B7. That is actually going to be a transitional chord to take us to E minor. So I want to be looking at that. So what I want to just sort of round off this lesson, because these are just little snippets of information for you guys to take away and think about, is that there are 7 chords in any key, whether it's a major or a minor key. At the moment, we're discussing major key formations, and I'm just going to round out this lesson today by again playing those 7 chords. So what we've got is the G major 7 is the 1 chord, A minor 7 is the 2 chord, B minor 7 is the 3 chord, C major 7 is the 4 chord, D7 or dominant 7th is the 5 chord, E minor 7 is the 6 chord, and the F sharp half diminished is the 7 chord. Back to your tonic, your basic 1 chord G major 7. Oh, and by the way, why didn't the bald man need any keys? Because he had no locks. I'd like to introduce the homework section of our lesson. It's always good to give you guys something to go away and think about. So the first part of the homework is the creative aspect of our lesson today, where I mentioned earlier where the understanding and playing the 7 scale chords can be a songwriting tool within itself. Why don't you guys attempt at home to put together a progression, at least one progression based on at least 4 or 5 of the scale chords in this key of G that we've looked at today and discussed. Come up with something creative. Just try playing the chords in a different sequence. That's basically what Knocking on Heaven's Door was. That was just an example of how Bob Dylan used 4 of the chords in the key of G. Well, and the other part of our homework this week, I would like you to transpose. Transpose is a big word for me to say that simply means to play those 7 chords in a different key, to transpose, to change the key, and try writing out and playing those chords in the key of A. So I'd really it's very important not to just get stuck or bogged down in one particular key. I know that songwriters like to focus on a particular key, but as musicians we need to be versatile and be able to change keys. So let's write out the scale chords in the key of A this week and see if you can transpose that for me. So I hope you have lots of fun, and for all you budding songwriters out there, just start mucking around and start putting those scale chords to use. See you all next time.